Do you love what you hear in the podcast? Please go to Buy a Cup of Coffee. The Radio of Horror link is in the show notes, or it's on top of the Twitter page. Or you can just go to buymeacupofcoffee.com/Radio of Horror, and you can help support the other podcasts here on the Radio of Horror Network. Donations go towards cloud service and new equipment. Thank you.
This is Dr. Chris's Radio of Horror program, 91.3 FM. If you're not catching this recorded interview live, hopefully you're catching it on the Radio of Horror YouTube channel with a slideshow of our beautifully talented guest. On the show with us from last year's most recent horror movie, Castle Freak, we have Emily Sweet on the show. Thank you for coming on the show with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm happy to be here.
You have some producing credits as well as your acting credits to your name. What do you find to be easier, being a producer, writer, or an actor?
Actor, 100%. Hands down, 100%. All the other stuff is it's interesting and I like it. That's why I've done it and why I'll continue to do it. But for me, I feel the most confident and the most comfortable in front of a camera, even if it's in 20-degree weather, soaking wet, whatever the case may be. That is still easier for me, I think, than to write. When you're writing, it's kind of like, oh gosh, are people going to think that this sucks? Is this good? Is this whatever? But when you're acting, you just have to do a good job. You know what I mean? It's not, I don't know. I feel like it's a little less difficult than or less, not even difficult. I don't want to say that. That's taking away from, maybe it's just, I don't know. I prefer acting.
Is it just because of the numbers of lines and just trying to be creative can be really anxiety filled when you're like, oh my God, why did I write that? Oh, that's so bad. That sounds so dumb. I wouldn't say lines like that. Why would I force somebody else to say lines like that?
Yeah, I think so. You like to think you know how to write dialogue. I mean, we've been talking to people for years and years and having conversations for years and years, and so you think it would be easy, but oh yeah, when you hear someone say back what you write, it's like it can be cringeworthy. The same as if you sometimes hear yourself back and you're not used to it. People, 9 times out of 10 are like, oh my God, that's what I sound like. So yeah, I mean the others, like I said, I would love to continue to do them, but I find the most reward, I guess, out of acting.
Not to just gush all over your what they put on IMDb of how you look, but your best photograph, by the way, is from Dragon Unleashed, which is one of the only 2 films I've seen of yours. You're in this red dress sitting on a box or I don't know what it is, or something like that. It's picture perfect.
Thanks. Well, I appreciate it.
That is unbelievably beautiful. And that film was, I think, the first thing I saw of yours, and then I saw Castle Freak last year. What was the story about the Dragon Unleashed?
What was that story about?
What was what's the story behind how you got it in the film?
So funny. Okay.
Because when I heard the title the first time, I was expecting dragons, and then I saw you in it. I was just like, oh, they're doing a Game of Thrones thing, platinum blonde dragon wielder. Oh, it's a martial arts movie. Okay, yeah. That's fine too.
Whatsoever. No, so I was on a job site, a movie job site, and submitted for this movie called Death Kiss, which was a Rene Perez movie. And I got the role, but then timing or something or other, I don't really remember, that was years ago, didn't work out. And I was replaced by someone else, which is fine. She did a fantastic job, Eva, who is actually a dear friend of mine. I love her, I adore her. And it's funny because then she, from doing that, was booked for Dragon Unleashed, but then I think she broke her foot or something and couldn't do it. And so then I got the call, and Renee was like, hey, I know it's last minute, but can you be here in a week? And I was like, sure, yeah, okay. So it kind of just came about because I was cast in a different movie of his, and then wasn't able to do it, and then just last minute Eva couldn't do that movie, and so then I jumped in, and that's how that came about. Kind of a whirlwind.
On your resume, do you have any skills that you use in your films? Do you have anything in your personal life that you're I can totally do that? I can drive stick. I can drive a motorcycle. I can scuba dive.
I can drive stick.
Good. Which shockingly people can't, but so.
Yeah, it's something that I always wanted to do, and here, this is such a ridiculous story.
No, this is what the interviews are for. They're all about ridiculous stories. Yeah. Whatever you want to talk about. Any shade you want to throw. It's a safe space.
No, but 2016, it was New Year's Eve, 2016. And I thought I had paid my car off, and I was like, great, I'm going to run this car into the ground, whatever, it's paid off, what a great feeling. And then my mom called and was like, hey, you have not paid off your car. I just like got 2 new packet envelope things or whatever. So at that point, the car wasn't like, it wasn't worth it. So I was like, oh, it's New Year's Eve. Maybe I can get like a New Year's Eve deal or whatever. And so I went, and the car that I wanted, they only had in manual. And I had never driven manual before, but I was like, well, I do need a car. So I bought it, called a friend, was like, hey, I just bought a car, but I can't drive it. Can you come teach me how to drive a stick? So then I spent New Year's Eve 2016 learning how to drive a stick shift. And that's what I've been driving ever since.
I was forced to buy a stick shift car when I was 18 years old. The first car I ever bought. The guy, because car dealership salesmen are just the worst. I'm sorry. I've just never had an experience with one. I've had ones that are like felt very apologetic to like how their managers were, but still I just never had a great car dealer experience. And this guy, Lonnie Dragon was his name, and I still remember his name because I hated him so much, forced me into like a stick shift or whatever, telling me how easy it was and so on and so forth. I was a mess trying to drive it. Can I drive stick today? Yeah. And it's like, I've gone back between automatic and stick or whatever, so I do remember. You know what I mean? But good God, did I stall that thing so much that I was screaming at the top of my lungs, and people were like staring at me like through the window, seeing me like flip out, and I'm just getting more angry because you're having people stare like, what is going on? And you can't see, you're on camera, but I'm not, because you can't see the expressions I'm making. But I remember the worst time was I was on a hill and the car stalled out, and there's a ton of cars behind me, including a Mack truck, like directly behind me. And the guy gets out of his Mack truck, is like, everything okay? Like, do you need to push up the hill? And I was like, I can't get the thing. I just learned how to drive stick. He's like, okay, this is what you're going to do. Turn the car on, right? Okay, put the parking brake on. Now turn the car on. All right? Now, listen exactly what I'm going to tell you to do. And he was just so gentle with it. And I gunned it right up the hill, and I got up the hill. Because he was going to like tap me and push me up the hill with his giant truck. But no, I got it. And then a few tries after that was much better for it. But he was like the first person to be like, all right, so this is what you do. Put it in parking brake.
I had it. I was like,
it's okay. I'll push you up the hill if you want me to, but I would rather you try and get this done yourself. So, I hated that car too, by the way. It broke down on me like 2 years later. The ignition module broke, and it was in the middle of a rainstorm, and I got it repaired, and the second time it happened again, it was like some type of lemon thing in the car. It just drove me nuts.
Well, good riddance to that car then.
True confessions of car hell on Radio Horror. That's what we're discussing. How did you get involved with Castle Freak? And had you ever seen the original film from the 80s?
Yeah, I loved it. 95, right? 95?
Yeah, because Jeffrey Combs was... Yeah, that was definitely years away from the first Reanimator. But yeah, that was definitely the height of those really weird Charles Band movies. And was this Charles Band too?
This was under... Yes, it was, yes.
Blue Moon.
And he had some sort of hand in it, I believe. But yeah, so I had seen it, and I loved the original. I still love it. It's one of my favorite movies. I absolutely love it. And so my agent was like, hey, I have this audition for you. You know, basically when I realized it was a new reimagining of Castle Freak, I was just beyond the moon, and ended up getting it, and have never been so excited. You know, to get to go to Albania, to get to meet Barbara Crampton and Tate Steinsick and all these people, and just to be in a castle, it was like a dream come true. It was amazing. So, yeah, I got to thank my agent Leo for that, because he hooked me up great.
And where did you say it was shot?
Albania.
Oh my God, that's awesome. How is the country of Albania? I don't know enough about it.
I didn't either. I was like, my high school self was so embarrassed because I was like, wait, where's Albania again? Like, I couldn't even remember. But it's right next to Greece, and so I even hate to say this because I don't want to give away the secrets of Albania, but Greece, right? And so it has all the same beaches, it has like all the same atmosphere, everything, except it's 1,000 times cheaper because no one thinks to go to Albania, right? They're like, oh, well, we'll go to Greece. I never thought, oh, Albania, what a great, like, vacation destination. I would go back in a second. It was beautiful. The people are so nice. The food is great. It's so cheap. It's beautiful. It just has so much culture and so much life to it. And gosh, I loved it. I didn't want to come back. It was so nice.
Now, I don't know if you can see if what you have in front of you that you're talking on to bring up the IMDb for Castle Freak, because there's an image on the IMDb I wanted to ask you about. Because off the air we were talking about Marvel films and things like that, and you have some. You seem to be a you've got some knowledge of comic book stuff. There's an image on the IMDb of a tentacle creature on a page from the movie.
Okay, hang on. Let me.
Okay.
Quick.
Because I'm going to tell you what I think this looks like and tell you about the connection between Blue Moon and Marvel Comics that you may or may not know about, and it has to do with co-stars of yours or co-stars in other movies of yours.
It's the second one?
Yes, it's the page. It's after the girl, which I don't think the girl is you. That's not you, right? No, okay, I didn't think that was you. Yeah. Her hair is too short. You have longer blonder hair. She has yellow blonde hair. You have platinum blonde hair. Okay, yeah. So it's this tentacle-eyed creature thing. Okay, so this is my geeky crap or whatever that connects everything together. So, okay, original Castle Freak movie starred Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs was in a movie by Charles Band called Dr. Mordred. Dr. Mordred was supposed to be a Doctor Strange movie made by Blue Moon, but Wes Craven then was going to make a Doctor Strange movie, so they had to change all the names and a bunch of different stuff or whatever, keeping the essence of the film that they were going to make the same, but had to change things to avoid copyright problems with Marvel Studios. And by Marvel Studios, I'm not talking about like the way it is today. We're talking about like really badly made films in the 90s. This creature looks like a Doctor Strange villain called Cooling Garath or something like that. He's a giant tentacled-eyed monster creature that Doctor Strange fights once in a while that you can easily look up. And I was looking at this going, is this like left over from Charles's never used Doctor Strange script, which I would still love to him to go, hey, Marvel, I have this script that we were going to make one day, but you said, nope, you can't do that. We're going to do it with Wes Craven, which that movie never happened. Wes Craven went on to make Vampire in Brooklyn. I would love to see either a sequel to Dr. Mordred with like Jeffrey coming back and using like, you know, some ties to Castle Freak in some way, which would be funny considering he's in both films. But also like Charles to go to Marvel and say, hey, I still have this script with all the Doctor Strangeness in it. Why don't we turn this to like a unmade comic book adaptation or an animated movie, since you have all the Disney money in the world to animate things? I would love to see that. But as soon as I saw this image before I saw the movie, I was like, is this his unmade Doctor Strange movie he like cut pieces out of and then taped into the Castle Freak script? What is this creature? If you can explain it, because I don't have the movie memorized. I've only seen it once, but you can tell me.
It's like Yog-Sothoth. Cthulhu Yog-Sothoth.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So when Marvel created their own creatures, they didn't necessarily just want to entirely rip off like something that was written, so they came up with their own version. But at some point in Marvel's history, they had problems with like creating horror characters, so they had to be very weird about how they did it. So like Morbius, the living vampire, because once upon a time the Comic Code Authority said you can't have sex, gay stuff, or drugs, or undead things in your comic book. So they were like, oh, okay, so he's not an undead vampire like you think vampires are created. He's a living vampire. He was a scientist, which is a movie coming out soon at some point starring Jared Leto, if we ever get around to releasing it, called Morbius.
Yeah.
So in that, he never dies. He has a blood transfusion with like mucked around vampire bat DNA that he's done science stuff to, and then he injects it into himself, and he's all like, woohoo, I'm a 10 out of 10 body, but then starts turning into like a vampire freak.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, interesting.
So I saw this image, and that's my giant Doctor Strange connection.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
You don't know who the artist is for any of the artwork in this movie, do you?
I wish Tate was here because he would be able to answer that. Yes, this was all hand-drawn by someone. The book was, handcrafted, hand-designed. I don't remember. That's awful of me. It doesn't say on the picture at all.
No, unfortunately, they don't. They're gonna tag you and your co-stars. They're never gonna tag who the artist is unless they're like, oh, this is Edward Gorey, or this is Alex Ross. If they're kind of unknown. If you don't know, that's fine. I was been really curious myself because I see the artwork in this and I'm like, the attention to detail to these movies is fantastic. Whether or not you love or hate Castle Freak versus the original is irrelevant. It's just the fact that Charles has always, he shoots his stuff in places that are just like out of this world. They're not America. They're definitely not America. You know what I mean? And that's the highlight of always watching his films is seeing it filmed in some faraway place. And I'm hoping like maybe like one day we'll see like a remake of like Subspecies, which was his vampire series.
Yeah. Well, I do feel bad, and I apologize to the person because I know that I know the name. I've been told the name before, and so I apologize to you, fantastic, wonderful artist who made this Necronomicon. I don't know. But also, when you just said, it made me think of this, when you're like, whether you hate the Newcastle Freak or not, I just want to touch again on, I feel as if a lot of people who didn't care for the new one was because they were expecting a remake, and it's not a remake, and we specifically have branded it as a reimagining because besides the Freak and John and Rebecca in a castle, it is a different story, way more H.P. Lovecraft heavy and themed, and no matter how many times we were like, it's a reimagining, you're like, this remake sucks, it's nothing like the original, and we're like, it wasn't supposed to be, it's a new story, a new take on things. So I mean, also fair if you just don't like the movie. I mean, that's okay. You can't win them all. But one of my things that I try to keep telling people is it wasn't a remake. It was a reimagining.
Right. Like, you do a movie called The Final Level, which when I saw the poster, I haven't seen, because I said I've only seen the 2 films you've done. And I was like, is this Jumanji direct-to-video or what? And then reading the description and seeing like the way like the women are portrayed, like one in particular, I don't know her name, Jessica Chancellor, reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy girl, Doctor Who, whatever her name, the female of...
A really big cosplayer, like a huge cosplayer. I'm sure she's actually probably cosplayed that before.
Okay, yeah. So that's who she reminds me of being like this. So, and just to go back to what you're saying about it's not a remake, it's a reimagine. Jumanji is not a remake of the film with Robin Williams and Kristen Stewart. It is a straight-up sequel to that movie. It's a reimagining, though, yes, because the original was a board game. Today, it's going to be a video game. So it's a reimagining with an old school video game thing. Like, oh, young millennials find an old school Sega Genesis. What do they do? How do they play Sega Genesis that's not PlayStation 4? And that's the cute little like reimagining of it. But they make direct references to the original film. In fact, one of the villains from that film kind of shows up in a new way, played by Clive Owens, and the whole... the Robin Williams name is written on a tree somewhere as well. Plus, the way they get rid of the game at the end of Robin Williams' film is how the game is found at the beginning of the Rock film. And I'm like, that's clever attention to detail. Somebody was paying attention when they wrote this script.
I haven't seen the new Jumanji movies, but I will say, again, very, like, just like you said, people, without even seeing the final level, they're like, oh man, it's a total ripoff on Jumanji. It's really not like Jumanji at all. It's like, I mean, sure, kind of, right, because we get sucked into a video game, but it's a lot different. But yeah, people just, they like to make their opinion known before ever watching anything.
It's also very funny that this girl, Jessica, is in a Scooby-Doo TV series coming up soon.
Yes, so that is her and her boyfriend, Dade. They're lovely, wonderful people, and so the DP of The Final Level, Stephen Rancala, and then the director and writer of Fear Farm, Dante Yor, they're all super close friends of mine, and yes, everyone should go watch the trailer of Mystery Inc.
It looks amazing.
Yeah,
also, Scooby-Doo doesn't look like a CGI creature of the night.
No, they used a real, what are those dogs?
Great Dane. So they used a real Great Dane, but they animated his mouth?
I don't know.
Well, Scooby-Doo talks, so I'm assuming they animated the dog's mouth.
I don't even know if Scooby-Doo talks, to be honest, in this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Riverdale kind of Sabrina Scooby-Doo.
Oh yeah, I'm getting that from the photographs. It definitely has that feel to it.
So they made like a teaser and are going to start making I guess the pilot. It hasn't been picked up, but it should be picked up because it's amazing and they're amazing. But yeah, no. So yeah, she and Dante and Dade and a bunch of our friends are working on that project, which is really awesome.
I have to find this final level because reading the description, I'm just absolutely in love with it. And you got top billing of the cast too. That's pretty awesome. You're at the top of the IMDb. You're Chrissy, and you're kicking butt, and you look fantastic in all of the photos with it. And you get to work with Bei Ling. She's pretty awesome. I interviewed her many years ago. She probably doesn't remember coming on my show, but but the idea of this like all female centered like go on this adventure video game thing is very appealing. I like that That's very cool. And it's the whole it's not based on a video game. It's an original movie with the idea of a video game behind it.
Yes, and I always like to throw this out in case people do watch it. It's a unique, interesting fact, but also I'm proud of this fact that we shot this in 6 days and we basically got one take.
Wow. That's quick. Do you ever read anyone's comments besides Castle Freak, which we've already gone on to? Do you ever read or pay attention to anyone's comments or opinions about a film? And you're laughing. This is about anything you've ever done.
I try not to anymore, but I have. Yes.
Okay. Besides Castle Freak, you have.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it ever make you feel really bad and want to quit the industry, or do you just like, well, that's their opinion, and that's just like your opinion, man? Like the dude in The Big Lebowski would say.
This is a great question, and I'm very happy to address this. So I always like to think when I love a movie and I'll go read the comments and I'll see people trashing it, I'm like, how can you trash this movie? Like, it was really well done. It was good. It was great acting. But I think a lot of trolls love to immediately, they have nothing better to say than bad acting, low budget, this horrible, sucks, waste of time, boring. And it's like, well, okay, if you think that genuinely, that's fine. Like, you're not gonna please everyone, right? But like, why do you think that? Like, why was it boring? Like, why would you think it's low budget? Like, why do you think the acting's bad? I don't know. Yeah, there was in Fear Farm, which is a super fun movie, and I love that movie. I remember I read a comment someone was like, man, that cheerleader Wendy, what was she doing cast with those people? She looks old, and she looks like she's, she could have a child of her own, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well.
Oh, my roommate has the DVD of this, like sitting up, I think he does, sitting upstairs in the home theater, just like sitting on the table. Because I remember the chainsaw guy.
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, I don't know. No, it never makes me want to quit the industry, because if I got, to answer your question, sorry, I kind of
No, it's okay. Yeah. So you're talking about yourself when you said this girl, Wendy. I didn't know who your character was, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But, so yeah, no, because if I let everyone's comments, steer me away from this, I would have quit years ago. But what I go off of is, do I feel good about it? Does the director like it? Like, you know what I mean? Those are the things that are important. Like, as long as the director and I feel really good about what I'm doing. And, another thing too is that's so funny about this is if someone, and I'm not blaming, I love the movies that I've done. And so I'm not saying this about any director. So please know that. But, what people a lot of the time don't understand is, yes, you are allowed to, when you're as an actor, right? You're memorizing, you're kind of forming the characters and, how they would do things or say things or, their little insecurities and stuff like that. But it is the director directing the actors, right? And so when someone's like, Emily, you're a bad actress, I'm like, well, I was just doing what I was told. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, okay, I'm sorry you think that, but I don't know. You can't win them all. You can't please everyone. And I have made peace a long time ago with, as long as I feel good about what I've done, then I don't really care what anyone else says.
Do you you can spoil this for anybody, do you live or die in Fear Farm? Because it's a slasher movie, right? Yeah, and you play the cheerleader. Cheerleaders do not live through films.
But the great thing about Fear Farm is Dante Yor, who wrote and directed, he changed all those. So all the tropes that you think that they are, they're not. So just because I'm actually not a cheerleader in the movie. I had an audition that day as a cheerleader, and then I was like, hey, can I go home so I can change? And my friends were like, no, sucks to be you. You got to wear that the whole day, you a-hole. You know what I mean? Just so I'm actually not a cheerleader. And
you're not? Okay. The photos, you look like you're a cheerleader.
Yeah, because, again, that's the trope that Dante was playing. In a typical horror movie, you have the cheerleader, but, the joke is I'm not. And, Brandon, his name is Houston Stevenson in real life, who plays my boyfriend, the blonde. He's, instead of, the girls being bimbos, he's the bimbo. Melanie, the brunette who was played by Tiana Tuttle, she's a super, super badass girl, if you were to watch it, you would see that Dante has done a very good job of kind of throwing those tropes up onto their sides. So Yeah, but spoiler, no, I don't make it.
Do you do you ever fear? Do you ever get fear? Do you ever have a fear of getting typecasted? I mean, you're very young, and so your career is very new. But, huh? What?
Thanks for that. That's nice.
You look very young.
I am, but that's very creepy. Thank you.
But you get what I'm saying. Do you worry about, like, in 10 years from now getting typecasted? Because you worked with recently Barbara Crampton, and I remember reading interviews that she kind of left the industry for quite some time because she was just constantly getting pigeonholed into, I gotta get naked and get killed, or I am the blonde, or I'm the sex symbol, and so on and so forth over and over again. And it wasn't until your next, I think, came around that she resurfaced. You know, big Hollywood, kind of very cool killer movie. If you've never seen it, Adam Wingard directed it.
I love that movie so much.
And that movie was, based on a short film he made. And now what is he directing? Godzilla versus King Kong. I mean, I'm sorry. You went from the short film you put online that got made into a movie because some studio exec saw it and said, here's some money, do something a little better with it, to making Godzilla. I mean, B-rated as much as Godzilla has been sometimes, it's still Godzilla. It's as big as Star Wars. In Japan, Godzilla is bigger than Star Wars. Yeah. So to go from a short film that you made with your friends to Godzilla,
right.
that is as high as you go.
Yeah. So typecast. I mean, here's the thing. Here's what. Do I worry about that sometimes? Sure, but I am just happy to work, and I know that's kind of like a cheesy cliche thing to say, but I really am, and I mainly want a career in horror.
There you go. Embrace that.
Well, so, unfortunately, and things are changing. I was actually just talking about this on a different show. We were talking about just how I feel about nudity in general, like in movies. Not even me, but just like in general. And so, again, what I said was, I think it's kind of overblown here in the United States. It's taboo, but if you go to Europe, nude beaches all over the place. It's like not as big of a deal. And
yeah. Just like on social media, you post anything with even like top cleavage nowadays on Facebook, you're going to get banned or put in jail. But like gore pictures or something like that, or something political that causes a riot, is totally okay. But top cleavage is now getting like more censored as well, and it's just like, are you kidding me with this?
So again, do I want to do it all the time? No, I don't. Like, do I like to do it? Not really, but like for Castle Freak, there's no way I was gonna turn down being in Castle Freak, right? So like, sure, I was gonna do it.
Free trip overseas, yeah.
Overseas, yeah. But no. So, unfortunately, I think horror is changing a little bit, and you can do so much with horror now without nudity, which I think is nice. But I mean, if I'm getting typecast in horror movies, but that means I'm acting in horror movies that I really like and genuinely are proud of, then I guess you can typecast me, but I don't know. I mean, again, I hope not to be. I hope, again, like you said, people see your my bleach blonde hair and think like, oh, kind of bimbo cheerleading thing, but
that was just that movie. That was just that movie. Okay. Okay.
No, I didn't think that at all. I'm so sorry.
No, I was no. When I saw you, I was just like, oh, she's in Castle Freak. Oh my God, she's so beautiful. I was whispering it. I was like, I saw you in Castle Freak. I saw you in Castle Freak. So then I went online to research, you, and I found the Twitter. And you have a great Twitter picture, by the way. Your Twitter picture is just phenomenal. It's just,
thanks.
Yeah.
William Bakke, shout out to him.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then, yeah, he definitely knows how to do it. Is that your headshot on your resume? Yeah, it is.
But yeah.
It's fantastic. It definitely.
You are very kind. Thank you.
Thank you. My one of my co-hosts she embraces the horror movie thing. You know what I mean? She's like, I'll get killed, I'll get naked, I'll do whatever you want. I don't care. Taboo again. Do you ever want to leave being in front of the camera and just go directly behind the scenes? You ever thought about directing yourself? Not yourself, but directing. You know what I mean?
I have thought of it, and it scares me. I'm sure one day, I will cross that bridge, and I think it's important to learn all aspects of the industry, you know, and being an actor, I think, you know, would help in being a director. But it scares me. It's an not scares, but it is rather intimidating because I feel like, you know, I'm a decent actress, but to maybe explain what I'm like, you know what I mean? How to explain what I'm feeling and thinking and like where to take it to someone. If I can't do that effectively, then yeah, then I'm a horrible director. And I don't know, it just seems very intimidating to me.
You know, it's intimidating to me being on camera because I think I'm the worst actor of all time. I watched a short film that was the prequel to the graphic novel I talked about, and I delivered this line that is just so bad. Get on up there. Get on up in there. Get. You don't need to go up and I'm like, Jesus criminy, Chris. Can you not? You wrote this, you moron. Can you not deliver your own dialogue? And you're worried about the actresses. You suck. And this is me talking about myself, people. I'm like, it is so bad the way I deliver it, and I cannot believe this is the version we went with. And sure enough, it's like 10,000 views online. And I'm just like, well, thankfully no one's commenting about how terrible I am. They just like, you know, wow, those girls, woo, they're hot. I'm like, I'll live with that.
You have certain people, you know, who want to be in the entertainment industry but have absolutely zero any sort of want to be in front of the camera. So I mean, you know, I guess we pick these jobs for a reason. Like, you know, I like being in front of the camera. I think it's fun to like be these different people, to be covered in blood, to, you know, just tell these different stories. I love that. But yeah, I don't know, you'd ask a friend of mine who's in the industry but, you know, does camera work, would be like, absolutely not, do not put me in front of the camera. Like, I will freeze, I will throw up, I cannot do that, no.
Last two questions. Were you a convention goer before the pandemic, and did you ever have a weird fan experience at a convention?
I have never been to a convention.
It's too bad Castle Freak came out during the pandemic. That would have been the perfect film to go to like horror conventions to. That could have been like your, hey, Emily Sweet from this horror movie with Barbara Crampton and a bunch of other people.
There was a lot supposed to happen with Castle Freak. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, it just didn't pan out. But yeah, no, I've never done a convention, but I would love to. They look super fun, and I would love to just talk to people about horror all day. Are you kidding? That sounds awesome.
You should start your own podcast.
I have one, but I've never done anything with it.
How many episodes have you recorded?
None. That's what I'm saying. I have like
the
intro. I have the outline that I like, the idea of the podcast. But I've just never done it because I think, who wants to listen to me? So I never did.
Are you kidding? You have a very sweet voice. You do not have the joke is you have the face for radio, but you do not have a face for podcast. But you could also do video podcasts as well. You just got to keep in mind that there are trolls on the internet that will be like, oh, why isn't she like wearing something sexy or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, go watch Castle Freak, you know, or whatever, whatever. That's not a great example. I'm not condoning that type of behavior, but people would act that way. But it doesn't have anything to do with like the way you look. It's just because you're a female, unfortunately. That's the type of crap you could receive. But that's not always every single person who listens. It's like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100. Just like a fan you would meet at a convention would be like, yeah, great, here's your signed autograph, get the hell away from my table. You know what I mean? But most of the fans would be very respectful, your boundaries and so on and so forth.
No, I've read the comments. I can take the
Hey, well, if you don't need to discuss what the podcast idea here is, just, you know, keep it to yourself. But if you ever want to pursue it, I work cheap to help you edit it.
Oh, thanks. That's okay. I will.
And especially since you like horror, I'm assuming it's horror related in some way.
Yeah, it is.
Is it the Blue? Is it the Charles Band Blue Moon podcast? No.
No. Hey, how did you know?
You know, I like podcasts that are kind of niche. I don't just listen to podcasts that's like, let's cover every single horror movie ever, or every stupid like Disney movie ever, unless it's Drunk Disney, which is two people slowly drinking while watching a Disney movie, which I can't imagine what that's doing to the liver. But but my podcast, for example, are all very niche. Like there's a Spider-Man one, there's a dead TV one, we talk about dead canceled television shows. There's a goth girl horror one, which we talk about a comic book series called Hack Slash. And I was doing a Hammer one for a little while, which all talked about Hammer horror movies like Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing. So I'm always gravitated towards podcasts that have a niche about them. Like, there's a great podcast that talks about how the hell was this made. It's done by a bunch of comedians. If you look up who's on the podcast, you're like, oh, I've seen those guys and stuff. One of them's been on, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And they talk about, like, the weirdest films that are just, like, we're going to get into, like, the story of how this movie was made and what the heck was this, like, what was going on behind the scenes. You know what I mean? And a lot of it you might be able to hear on, like, a commentary or something like that. But it's always interesting to find their perspective on, like, what was the story behind, like, Life Force, which is this famous sci-fi vampire movie, which has the main female actress in it, known as Space Girl, is naked 18 of her 22 minutes on screen.
Oh my gosh.
She
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
she just like gets up, sucks the face of the guard or whatever. She's completely nude, and then she goes walking out, and the guards who are like watching her are just like, you're never gonna believe what I'm seeing right now. It's a girl, but she's like naked. and then they're like, one of them tries to tempt her with a cookie or whatever because she's like, don't let her escape. And she, just uses like lightning from her fingertips or something like that to like suck the energy out of somebody because she's a vampire. Life Force is what she basically feeds upon.
Okay, interesting.
The actress who played her was 18 years old and didn't speak a lick of English, but she was like a model, and this was her first like adult modeling role.
Yeah, very adult, very adult.
It's kind of like Natasha Henstridge in Species. The first time she, her big debut was in Species, but she had done modeling for like 2 years, and she was just like, this is comfortable for me. Whatever. Nude screen, not a big deal. What? I have to kiss somebody on screen? Oh no, I can't do that. It was with like Alfred Molina. That's what she says in the commentaries. Like, I could totally do nude on screen. I cannot kiss somebody on screen if my life depended on it up to that. I was 19 years old. I never kissed somebody on screen. Not even like in like teenage acting, I never got to kiss somebody.
Oh, yeah. Well, if people are comfortable with it and want to do it, and I say then go for it.
Where can people find you to send you accolades and all sorts of praise for your body of work?
I can be found on Twitter and on Instagram at It's Emily Sweet. So ITSEMILYSWEET.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily, so much for coming on the show and talking about like the ins and outs and acting. We don't just want to talk about, oh, you're at Castle Freak, that's awesome. No, we want to find out like the ins and outs and like the story behind the things you do and like what you're about and who you're into and stuff like that. As a big horror fan, what is your favorite horror thing to collect or watch or something?
Well, my favorite horror movie, it's always so hard to say, but I always go back to High Tension. I love that movie.
Ooh, very cool. Very dirty, too.
Very what?
Very dirty horror movie, too. And I don't know maybe dirty by content, just has a very filthy atmosphere about it. I mean, the opening of that movie, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I'm not going to get into, but holy cow!
Oh, holy cow, yeah.
Or later on, well, like, bad stuff's happening in the house and the serial killer's in, but, like, our main character with the short hair, what she's doing, and then you find out what's actually happening, you're like, I do not understand, like, wow!
But I also like to go through franchises, so currently me and my friend Jonas are going through, Jonas Barranca, side note, he's an actor for anyone looking for a fantastic actor, but he and I go through franchises. We went through Phantasm, and now we're going through all the Friday the 13th, and we're almost done with those. So, like, I don't know, I just like to take...
Oh, do you have the Friday the 13th box set that came out? Are you doing it through that? The new one?
No,
oh, okay. You know what I'm talking about, right? The new, huge Ultimate Collection that came out?
No.
Okay, so Scream Factory, are you familiar with them?
Yes.
They put out last year, at the height of the pandemic, they announced being like, we know it sucks in 2020, but we got some great announcement. We're putting out the entire Friday the 13th box set, every single film, every bonus material that's ever been released, plus a ton of new material, all mostly HD transfers of the film in this, like, 16-disc set of the 12 films. 16 discs.
Oh my god.
Yeah, some of those films had like 3 or 4 commentaries.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're still available on the Scream Factory site. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm sure you could shop around for it. But yeah, if you're a Friday the 13th fan, you should definitely watch that set.
Yeah, that's interesting. We just finished, oh gosh, the Manhattan one, Takes Manhattan. Or whatever.
Oh, God.
One, and then all of a sudden they're in Manhattan. I was like, wait, why were you on a cruise ship?
Oh, yeah, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I've had on a a podcast I do, the Dead TV podcast. We covered every episode of the Friday the 13th television show, if you've ever seen that, which has nothing to do with Jason. It was about two cousins and an old man who hunt down cursed antique objects. The only reason they called it Friday the 13th is because, hey, do you know what kids are into? Friday the 13th. They'll watch the show because it's called Friday the 13th. It has nothing to do with Jason, but that's what marketing is and how evil manipulative the studio system is. And also, like, we own it, so why not make it into a TV show? Because we're also making other primetime things in TV shows we own. We own War of the Worlds. That's a TV show. Star Trek? Yeah, we own that. Let's make that into something called Star Trek The Next Generation.